Good to go? Good afternoon, everybody. It has been a trying 24 hours for communities in our southwest and Great Southern regions. Our thoughts are with affected communities. We continue to battle two major bushfires in the Bridgetown and Denmark areas. Properties and businesses have been lost in both fires. 210 career and volunteer firefighters have worked through the night in incredibly trying conditions to try to bring both of these blazes under control. Importantly, overnight, their tremendous efforts in fighting the fires has seen significant progress being made. However, we're not out of the woods yet, and we need the community to continue playing their part. It's vital to stay up to date with Emergency WA and remain vigilant in case the situation changes. The rapid damage assessment teams will be working to assess the affected areas throughout today. We understand how worrying this must be for residents, and we are endeavouring to complete this process as quickly as possible. However, we still have an active fire situation, so we're asking people to please be patient. It is an incredibly difficult time for everyone involved. For all the affected communities, please know everyone in Western Australia is thinking about you. Can I also thank the many volunteer and career firefighters, to the SES personnel and volunteers, DBCA staff and the local government staff who have been involved in the response to these significant emergencies. First, I'll provide an update on the Denmark fire from overnight. The fire was first reported at 9:25 on Friday morning. The bushfire is not contained and not controlled. The bushfire has burnt approximately 2,151 hectares. 120 DFES, DBCA, Career Fire and Rescue Service, Volunteer Fire Rescue Service, Bushfire Brigade volunteers are actively fighting the fire, patrolling and strengthening containment lines. Local government, SES volunteers, WA Police, Telstra technicians and machinery contractors are also in attendance. Western Power report that there are currently 400 customer outages, and Western Power have restored power to 1,300 premises in the Walpole area. To the Bridgetown fire, the fire is not contained and not controlled. The fire has burned approximately 2,359 hectares. The cause of the fire is unknown. 150 DFES, Career Fire and Rescue Service, Forest Products Commission, VFRS and BFB volunteers are actively fighting the fire. Local government is also in attendance. Bridgetown Hospital was evacuated last night, but its emergency department remains open for those who really need it. 10 patients have been relocated to other facilities in Manjimup and Boyup Brook. There is no reprieve for the hundreds at work today. Those actively fighting the fires and defending homes, to those supporting affected communities and displaced families, along with those behind the scenes. Though it appears the weather may be easing for parts of the state, the situation in the emergency warning areas continues to remain dire. Please continue to follow the advice of DFES and keep up to date with the Emergency WA website. I'll now hand over to the Commissioner for a further update.
Thanks, Minister, and obviously I'm here to provide an update on the Bridgetown and Denmark fires. They've certainly been extremely challenging over the last 48 hours, and clearly our thoughts are with the communities and those people that are affected. Equally, my thoughts are with the families of those volunteers who have responded and deployed out of their normal regions to assist those two local communities. Unfortunately, properties and businesses have been lost as a result of these two fires, and I'll speak more to that in a second. In relation to the Denmark fire, one of the challenges we've had since it commenced on Friday morning, where it rapidly escalated into a level 3 fire later on Friday evening, was yesterday, in those incredibly difficult conditions that occurred, was a fairly significant breakout in the northeast corner of the fire, which a lot of effort's gone in to try and track that, but there are component parts of that northeast corner that we're going to be unable to get machinery into due to the type of terrain and how steep it is. And so a lot of focus at the moment is into that northeast corner to try and really shore up the edge of the fire there. I can say that 80% of the fire is tracked currently. However, that northeast corner still presents us some problems as we're dealing with that change in weather and a more sort of westerly influence in the wind. Crews will obviously maintain our presence down there over the coming days. We are expecting that we'll go into another trough weather pattern later in the week on Thursday, Friday, but it will be nowhere near as what we've experienced, nowhere near as severe as what we've experienced over the last couple of days. In relation to damages there, our rapid damage assessment team has identified 4 homes that have been lost to date and 1 that's been damaged. They're also reporting another 4 structures that have been lost, and 1 of those is damaged. And when I say structures, outbuildings, chalets and sheds and the like. As I said, we're into a more milder weather pattern now, and so we're expecting over the next couple of days to really make some ground on the Denmark fire and contain that rather significant edge that we've got on the eastern side of the fire, which has the potential, if not controlled properly, to push further east into the outskirts of Denmark. In relation to Bridgetown, that fire started just after lunchtime yesterday afternoon. Really rapid rates of spread were fed back to us in terms of reports from the fire ground. Particularly difficult conditions, 42 degrees in Bridgetown yesterday, a -1 dew point yesterday, and really strong winds, which made that fire incredibly difficult to control in those conditions. It required us to split our aerial resources across both the fires, both Denmark and Bridgetown, and it saw it escalate up into a level 3 fire very quickly within 3 or 4 hours. It's got a significant amount of firefighters on it yesterday, and then late yesterday afternoon we had issues on the northeastern edge once again, with the fire running into Hester later on last night. That's seen some damages. Rapid damage assessment teams are out there now, and these will be updated as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours. But I can tell you that initial reports indicate damage to some buildings at the golf course in Bridgetown, the Shire Depot in Bridgetown, the Shire Waste Facility, and 1 house in Hester. I can also tell you that Timber Treaters, a business in Hester, has also suffered significant damage. And as I said, as the rapid damage assessment teams work through over the next 20 to 48 hours, we'll update those and confirm exactly the nature of those losses. Importantly, over the last 24 hours, thoughts are turning towards recovery for those communities that have been affected by these fires. We're working closely with the local government to assess these property losses and, importantly, any impacts on business continuity in those 2 communities. Obviously, our initial focus is on containing the fire and making it safe, but we'll continue to support those local communities with our recovery efforts through the local government in the coming days and weeks. Turning our mind now to today and some of the challenges we're facing a little bit east of those 2 fires today. We have been preparing for the catastrophic conditions that we faced over the last couple of days, and as late as last Thursday we were undertaking planning with the National Resources Sharing Centre on Friday regarding additional interstate support should we need it. A 3rd large air tanker was requested yesterday, arrived in the state last night and is ready for tasking this morning. We've activated a Level 3 incident management team comprising of personnel from New South Wales and a range of different emergency services in New South Wales. They're expected to arrive later today and will be available for use in a bubble tomorrow should we require it. One of the purposes of bringing this team over has been to provide us with some backup if we need it. I can also tell you that just in the last hour there has a fire has occurred at Bruce Rock, and that fire has escalated up to an emergency warning very quickly under those catastrophic conditions that are currently being experienced in large parts of the wheat belt. And now happy to take any questions.
There was an injured in Bridgetown, we understand. You able to tell us about that?
Yeah, I understand a local resident was burnt fighting the fire early in the fire yesterday afternoon. I understand he's in a serious condition, and that's about the extent of my knowledge.
The defending his own property, or?
As I understand it, yeah, operating on his own property. But look, as you can imagine, details on these sorts of things are not known always correctly, and so I'm very reluctant to be saying or speculate about exactly what happened. But that's my understanding. A local resident operating in a more rural setting as opposed to in the town has been burnt, obviously taken off to hospital and being treated as we speak.
What's the wind forecast and the likely impact of that for both towns today? Later this afternoon, how's the wind going to change, I suppose?
Oh, okay. So we've already seen the wind change move through the two incidents. So that catastrophic area that you've seen and those really high temperatures, the 40s and the 42s have shifted east, and Denmark and Bridgetown are now into sort of mid 20s, but a more westerly influence away from the northeast impact that we had yesterday. So that's going to present its own challenges. Certainly, from a temperature point of view and moisture in the air point of view, things are much better. It makes it much easier for firefighters. But strong westerly winds will test different parts of the fire than what we were dealing with yesterday.
Are we seeing this early extreme weather? Is our weather situation the result of climate change, and is that your assessment? Is that the expert's assessment?
Yeah, look, I refer to it as a changing climate. That's the way I feel as a fire and emergency service practitioner. I feel that that the challenges that we're having with these fires and floods, for example, what's been experienced up north over the last week, they tend to, I feel, they're becoming more intense. And an example of that is that on Friday night the fire at Denmark doubled in size overnight, and so for the most southern, one of the most southern parts of our state, to have a fire double in size overnight is not territory we've been in often before.
We see them in the state. Your agency, sort of from a layman's point of view, seems to be better prepared this year than perhaps you've got extra planes. You've brought an extra plane in. A lot of this work was done because do you feel that the WA is in a more extreme position these days?
Yeah, look, we've had a large air tanker based here for the last 3 years, and during Warraloo, for example, we had three large air tankers here. Today we've got 3 large air tankers here in the state, and so I think the thing that's changed most positively in recent years has been the greater desire of different states and territories to share their own resources, be they human resource or trucks or planes or whatever it happens to be, and we've been positively affected by that over the last 2 years, where we've been able to reach into other states to assist us.
The homeowners that, or the homes that have been lost, have the homeowners been notified? What's happening with notification of the damage?
Yeah, I'm not aware if they've been notified as yet, but there is a normal process for us to go through. Obviously it's a very difficult time for those people, and it needs to be managed appropriately. Our wellness people are often involved in these discussions with these homeowners, and they'll be in Albany and Denmark and Bridgetown as required.
Are all available firefighters being called back to work and sent south, or is it not that sort of level yet?
No, we're not at that level yet, but certainly those plans exist there. For every day of the year where we might might have to deal with an emergency where we get stretched.
For those of us who are not particularly familiar with what's going on down there, the Bridgetown Hospital was evacuated for a period of time. What it still is, but is there any immediate or any future threat to the towns of Bridgetown and Denmark themselves, or is that past?
Yeah, look, I think they're probably slightly different. Bridgetown, under a westerly influence, which we're going to have for the next few days, the fire is mainly north and north of the town, and so for a Bridgetown point of view, that westerly influence is a positive result, and so there are some residents of Bridgetown that have been able to return to their homes overnight, and that certain parts of the town have been identified differently from a risk point of view, and where the risk has been determined as low, those residents have moved back into their houses. Denmark, that fire is still some distance west of Denmark, but with that westerly influence that we're going to have over the coming days, I think the message to people in Denmark is they need to make sure they're enacting their bushfire plan. I know, having spoken to the CEO of the local government, there are the message from him to the residents has been to pack a bag and make sure you're ready to go if you need to, because while the conditions are much milder and we're really expecting to make good ground on that over the next couple of days, that risk still exists while that fire is to the west of them. All right, thank you.
Other issues, Jeff?
Schools. The latest school, Corpus Christi, is going to remote learning for all of its high schools. There's more schools affected by COVID and there's more quarantining. It's just starting to get out of hand, isn't it?
I don't think so, Jeff. I mean, the numbers are very low in Western Australia, and certainly when you look at how Omicron took off in other states, we're in a very different situation. But obviously, we do have a 14-day isolation time in Western Australia, but as the Premier indicated yesterday, we'll continue to monitor the numbers, and if that needs to change, well, it will change in the future.
Well, hundreds of children school children in quarantine or remote learning, it's not a small number.
Jeff, what that 14 days is about ensuring that more kids can get vaccinated and more people can get boosted. Now, if we've got kids vaccinated and got people boosted, then the chance of people getting very unwell as a result of Omicron is a lot less. So as I said, and as the Premier said yesterday, this remains, we continue to look at it, and we'll reassess it at the appropriate time if the numbers rise significantly across the state.
Are you concerned about schools as a super spreader area? It seems to me there are a lot of cases emerging in schools. Is that kind of a weak point?
No, there's still, the numbers are very, very low still, Nick. And certainly the numbers of kids attending school, I think last week the numbers of kids attending school averaged about 92%, which was the same as kind of the weeks leading up to before we had to deal with COVID in the first place. So the numbers are the same. It does show that the West Australian parents have a level of confidence in relation to sending their kids to school, but I would urge everybody to ensure that they are getting their kids vaccinated, and also that adults are getting their booster shots as soon as they can.
Does it make a difference if the kids are vaccinated in terms of quarantine?
Oh, look, the data, no, so it doesn't. But as I said, though, that 14-day remains for isolation remains for everybody. Once, and as the Premier said yesterday, if the numbers rise significantly across the state, so if we're seeing a lot more cases on a daily basis, then that will be reassessed by government at the appropriate time.
Do you know what the numbers are today?
I don't. I understand that the Health Minister will be releasing those later in the day.
So they sent you out today to brief you on what the COVID numbers are?
I'm not sure what the COVID numbers are, because the Health Minister intends releasing those later in the day.
Well, the Health Minister is not releasing the Omicron modelling either. She should.
Well, as the Health Minister said, she's got preliminary modelling. The numbers in Western Australia remain very low. We're in a very different situation to the other states and territories. So the Health Minister continues to rely on advice from the Chief Health Officer. And as she said today, she's not in a position to release preliminary modelling at this stage, but I'm sure she will in the fullness of time.
Preliminary modelling is obviously what's informing the government's decision-making at present. So why isn't it appropriate to share that with the public?
Sure, there's a range of things that's guiding government at the moment. Most importantly, the Chief Health Officer. As you recall, Jeff, we have relied on the Chief Health Officer for the last 2 years, and can I say, from my estimation, it's stood us in good stead in Western Australia. At this stage, we have had 9 deaths in Western Australia as a result of COVID-19, and only one of those was because of community spread. So we've relied on the Chief Health Officer to date. We'll continue to do so. We'll continue to make decisions in the best interests of all Western Australian citizens.
Have you been informed anything about possible shark interaction down in Esperance at Wiley Bay?
No, I haven't seen anything, Nick, in relation to that.
Beep heard about some sort of possible attack.
Yeah, haven't seen anything. And my phone normally beeps when there's shark smart, when there's a shark. I haven't seen anything though, Nick.
Do you have anything else on that crash in Vietnam where the little baby died?
No, look, it's just been raised with me walking in. I've not heard about it. Can I say if a child has died, I mean, that's tragic. My heart goes out to the family, but I don't have any information, and so you might want to put a call into the Minister for Police's office.
Any further questions?
Good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, somebody sent this to me.
Unless they've taken it